sales coming in, momentum in the marketing, energy, payment notifications, like woo, you're seeing it come in. And then boom, the launch is over. And now you're in this middle portion. No dopamine hit of sales coming in, no people reaching out to buy, no energy and momentum in the marketing. Most people go into a launch style business, but they're rushing launching. They don't really plan the launch. They don't think through the launch. They don't prep and prepare the launch. They kind of just go in making more social media content and hope it will generate more. Is that what I should be doing? No. Hey, I want to launch and have this big, massive, multiple six-figure outcome. Can we open cart next week? No, this is not a, just take my initial social media content and slap a different call to action on it. Hello, and welcome back to Ambitious. Okay, today we are talking about something that I would say is kind of a fundamental aspect of the structure of your business. And I wanted to talk about this today because I feel like most people, number one, misunderstand today's topic, and also typically don't actually know what kind of model of business that they have. And so because of that and not having that clarity, it leads them to struggle to understand how they should structure their offerings, how they should structure their marketing. And so today I have a mission to give you clarity of exactly what you need to know about whether your business is a launch and promotion style business, or if you have more of an evergreen style business. And so in the spirit of today's topic, we're going to be going through things like understanding the difference between a launch and an evergreen model. We're going to also talk about the pros and cons of each. And this is really important because many people, when they go into planning a promotion or they go into, making their offer or their marketing evergreen, oftentimes are not taking the necessary reflection to say, do I want an evergreen style business? Do I want a launch style business? And really thinking through what it's going to require to build a business of that type. And also, we're going to talk about the mistakes that people make in each, because I help business owners day in, day out with both of these different models. And so I also want to talk about some of the things that I think are the reason that someone might struggle with a certain style, or maybe some of the things that lead these to not be as successful for you as they could be. I also want to talk about how to choose what's right for you. And this is an important thing I want to accentuate: for you. Because a lot of the time as businesses, we can see other businesses or other entrepreneurs who have a style of business, who have a certain structure of how they're operating. And we think to ourselves, is that what I should be doing? Like, if they do launches and promotions, should I do launches and promotions? If that person's evergreen and they're scaling, does that mean that I should be evergreen? And so I really also want to give context to how to figure out what is right for you. And most importantly, to give you some tangible examples. As I said, I have worked with businesses that are everywhere from 6 to multiple 7 figures, all who have a couple different styles of businesses, some who are all launch model, some that are entirely evergreen. And I also have people that I support that are a hybrid. And so we're going to get into all of that today. So what I would say is today is going to be an episode for you to finally get clarity. What kind of style of business do you want? Maybe what kind of style of business do you currently have? And really making sure that those two start to come together and create some congruency for you. So let's start off with at least giving like a definition, right, of what are these two different models? What does it mean to have a launch style business versus an evergreen business? And I see these terms get thrown out a lot. Like, people will say, I have an evergreen offer, or I'm doing a launch, but really the launch is not a launch, it's a promotion. And so I really want to give some clarity to finally settling this kind of gray area and making it very distinct as to what each of these mean. So let's start with a launch style business. Basically, a launch style business is a business that generates most of its revenue during a planned, time-sensitive promotional period, which is better known as a launch. So this is typically seen with a lot of people who do online courses, could be group coaching programs, could be digital products as well. So for any of you who sell ebooks or bundles or anything that's more of a digital product. And how you know that you have a launch style business is typically when you have open and closed cart. So you have a promotion, let's just say, that starts on a Monday and it lasts for 2 weeks. And after that, the cart closes, meaning the product and the offering you made during that period is no longer available. It means that 9 times out of 10, you can only buy it during a certain period or window. Now, The launch style model also means that you have an aspect of anticipation. You have an aspect of urgency. You have a lens of momentum when it comes to the marketing. And oftentimes we will use things to create that momentum. It could be something like a live webinar challenges a couple years ago. It's like a 5-day challenge, a 7-day challenge used to be very popular. One of the biggest things that I help clients with is, yes, obviously we can sprinkle in these events, but I also look with clients to say, how can we leverage social media and leverage email marketing to allow you to create a surge of sales? And so many of us know as online businesses that there's a platform called Kajabi. And Kajabi is actually in 2024, they did a study that showed that 65% of online course creators are all leveraging a launch-based model for their core offering. So this tells us that the launch-based model, literally as of 2024, was 65%. That's pretty significant. And I will say, out of all the businesses that I support, I have a good percentage of those businesses that leverage a launch style business. But the thing that we want to consider is that launches, really at its basic essence, are when you're creating a surge of momentum in marketing, a surge of momentum in your sales, and then you typically have a period in between where you're not necessarily promoting as much, you're not selling as much, you're leveraging these big waves of cash flow and sales, and you're typically using that to be the thing that sustains you over the periods in between the launches. So, as just a simple example for you, if I'm somebody who's doing, and I've had clients, I will, tell these stories in other case study episodes, but I've had clients where we've done promotions and they, during their launch, have generated $500,000 in 3 weeks. Well, that $500,000 is done and created in 3 weeks, but that has to last them 90 days in their business, which is still fantastic. But it's going to last them 90 days in their business till the next launch that they do, which is again another surge of cash. So, this typically for one of my clients right now, they have around a $2 million business a year. And so, what we do is we lean into their promotions and their launches, and we do one of those per quarter. So each goal that we have every 90 days is to generate $500,000 in sales, so that over the course of the year, they're generating a $2 million a year business. But here's the thing. This is only being done in these 4 promotion periods. So this means that there is not selling happening in between, which means there's a lot of attention, a lot of energy, and a lot of mastery that has to come from what they do within that launch or that promotion period. Now, on the contrast, the other style we're going to talk about today is the evergreen business. And the evergreen business is really where the business is selling its offer or its program or its service continuously without necessarily having a launch window. Now, this is also seen in online courses, right? So you will see, for example, some people will say this online course is available for 2 weeks, get it now before it goes away. Other people will have something where they'll have a webinar or a sales page that just sits on their website and it constantly is promoting people into their course. That is typically the true essence, if you will, of passive income, which is when you have an evergreen model, you're able to really see sales typically happen without you needing to constantly be promoting and pushing to get those sales through the front door. So this can be also seen as something like an open membership. So if you have a membership that you're doing that's kind of forever rolling, like even for us, our membership of Scale Sessions is a $97 a month hot seat membership. And this is something that's always available for people to buy at any moment. Also, digital products. If you're somebody who has ebooks that you want to kind of park on your website, if you have downloads, or maybe let's just say you're somebody who's in the operations category and you want to sell things like ClickUp templates, or you want to sell design templates. This is really popular in the design space as well. People will sell website templates, branding templates, and that can live on your site. This is also, really something that I see a lot too with high ticket programs, right? So even for us, our ITI Accelerator Mastermind, which is a 6-month mastermind, is an evergreen offer, which means that it is available for anybody to join at any moment throughout the year. So self-paced courses are great with this. Memberships are great with this. Also very commonly seen with service providers as well. So if you're someone, let's just say, who is a social media manager, maybe you're a consultant, for example, even for me, I have private mentorship, which is 6 months where I work with scaling businesses. That's something that is always available all year. Now, it's available in the context of if there's openings at the time when you inquire, you will get in right away. But if not, you would basically get the next available opening. But when it comes to like, when can I buy it? Technically speaking, you can buy it any time that you want. And so really what we're looking at is the key elements of Evergreen is the fact that you want to have passive sales or you want to have an automated sales process, and it's not urgent. You're not having this time sensitive thing. You're not having this big push that you need to create similar to a launch, because it's always available. So there's not really this aspect of offer urgency. It's not a matter of like the offers going away, the program's disappearing, limited spots, get it now before it dies. Like there's none of that happening. So the way that I explain it to people is typically when you think about, let's just say, your favorite pair of jeans, right? That you're going to go to the store and you have this pair of jeans that you've got your eyes on. Well, that always being on the shelf is the equivalent of it always being sold evergreen. When those go on sale, or even if there's something that's a limited time offer, that's considered to be a launch. So even if you think about concerts, for example, concerts also have a launch style promotion to them because they sell pre-sale tickets. They create this kind of like last chance, get it now. And then they create this momentum to create a surge of sales of these tickets all at once. So we're seeing these launch models and these evergreen models in our day-to-day life. Another example as well would be Starbucks promotional drinks, right? So if you've got the holiday version or you've got like the gingerbread latte at Christmas, that is a launch. That is a launch of a specific product and a specific offering. Now at Starbucks though, their banana bread is available all year round. That's considered to be an evergreen product that they have, meaning it is a stable, always available, always there, you can rely on it type of thing. And so because of that, they don't need to create promotion around it. But what I want to also introduce you to here is there actually is what's considered to be a hybrid business. So Starbucks is actually a great example of that, because you'll see those signature things like the general latte, the banana bread, the sausage breakfast sandwich that's available all the time. And then you see these limited time offerings on, some of the food-based items or some, beverages that are only seasonal and come once in a while. Those are a launch of a specific offer. So what they do is they actually leverage a hybrid model, meaning that there are promotional periods and there are launches of specific products, but those are also paired with having a evergreen style, always available set of products that people can buy. My business is technically a hybrid-based business, which means that I do not entirely rely on launches for the basis of my business. And I also don't entirely rely on evergreen passive or automated sales for my business. I actually do both. And so when I work with a client, I'm typically going to look at their business and what they're doing and ask a series of questions to understand, how do they like to market their business? How do they like to show up? How does their offer work on the inside? What are the things that they desire to see when it comes to sales? Meaning, do they want to see sales trickling in and kind of quote unquote always be selling? Do they want to maybe have surges of sales and then take a little bit of time off of selling? These are things that we start to dive into to really determine, are they an entirely launch-based business? Are they an entirely evergreen-based business? Or are they actually a hybrid, which is they kind of want to dabble in both and get the best of both worlds? The thing I want to say with picking your type or deciding which model is best for you is there's not a right or wrong here. So I want to be very clear that when it comes to either picking a launch style, an evergreen style, or a hybrid, it's not like based off of picking launch or evergreen, you're going to scale faster, you're going to scale easier. There's not really a right or a wrong model. This is very much something that is dependent on you and your lifestyle, 2, the way you want to operate in your marketing and sales, and 3, the actual structure of your offer. And so it's something that I would say is very personal, which is why I wanted to give today to you some information that gives you some food for thought, that allows you to really discover, what is my model and How do I lean in and really get clarity of what it is so I can create based off of that? So here's the thing that's interesting about the evergreen style, though, is that in 2024, it was discovered that 40% of digital entrepreneurs, so online businesses, rely solely on evergreen sales. But they did this because they noted that evergreen businesses tend to have a more stable month to month revenue. So, as we mentioned earlier with launching is creating these surges of sales, these surges of cash. But the thing that we get with Evergreen is that we're kind of getting trickled in money, trickled in sales happening continuously. So, this really is something that allows you a lot more stability month to month. It allows you to kind of be able to adjust things along the way. You're not having to wait 90 days to make some changes or 30 days or 60 days to make changes. So again, we see here that another study in 2024 showing 40% of digital entrepreneurs are using evergreen sales as their dominant model. So you'll see here, in contrast to the 65% of course creators who are using the launch model, there's a lot of variation around people picking different models depending again on offer and also what they see for themselves in the way that they want to run or to operate their business. So, when we're going into these, we want to start to ask ourselves, okay, well, what makes sense for me? So, let's go through a little bit of things you want to consider when you're making that decision. And by that, I mean, what are some of the benefits of each of these models? What are some of the things you kind of got to be aware of and some of the cons that are maybe not going to be as exciting for you with each of these models? And also, I'm going to kind of share some of the mistakes that I see people make that I think lead them to either not have success with these models or potentially kind of start to not enjoy them over time. That again, it's not a matter of the model's broken, but they're just making mistakes in the way that they're using it or operating it. So, with the launch model, let's dive into that first. The launch model, as I said, creates big revenue surges. And so because of that, there is kind of this like dopamine hit that we get, right? We get these big surges of cash. As I said, some of my clients generating $500,000 in 3 weeks of a launch. I had one client who did 6 figures in 10 minutes of launching with doing a promotion that she now rinse and repeats for her business. So there is a big revenue surge that happens when you leverage a launch-based model. There's also a lot of hype and excitement. And so because of that, your audience and your marketing is feeling a lot of energy. You're feeling the momentum in your platform or around your offering. And with this, I actually find because of that hype and excitement, we know that when we buy something, there's just as much investment for us investing in the product as there is in the energy around the product. Ask yourself, have you ever found that someone just had like, there's so much marketing around it that you just kind of were like, do I want to buy this? I don't think I want to buy it, but this marketing is making me feel like I want to buy it. Or we saw this also as a great case study with Barbie. The Barbie movie was something that, to be honest, there was a lot of people who probably traditionally would not have been, itching to go see. But when we started to see the launch and the promotion of Barbie, we started to say, okay, whoa, we've got, Barbie in Sephora. We've got Barbie at, all the different local food chains that have a signature Barbie drink. And they were literally everywhere. And I remember during this promotion thinking, I didn't want to see this movie, but now I want to see the movie just because the marketing is so good. And it's making me think this movie is getting so much energy around it. Like, am I missing out on something here? And so when we see this hype and excitement, the other benefit to that is it actually sometimes in the moment, because that energy and excitement can make the selling feel easier because you're able to leverage the momentum. You're able to leverage the movement of people all moving at the same time. I always tell clients, Evergreen is like moving a couple sheep a day. When you're launching, you are herding sheep. You are moving 10, 20, 200 sheep at a time versus 2 or 20 a day with an evergreen model. And so because of that, there's momentum. There's also this aspect which has its own psychology backing of when people see other people move, they feel the need to move. It's called the herd effect. And that's also something that you can leverage in launching. You can leverage that momentum of other people moving to make people who weren't taking action start to do so. So the benefit to launching is we've got these big cash surges. We get some breaks in between. We don't have to promote, don't have to sell as much. We've got great energy, great momentum, great, feeling around your marketing and your community. And typically because of that, it makes the selling very exciting. It makes the selling very dopamine heavy, and it really gets people moving quickly. Now, here is the thing though. That is all great. And I have clients who love that portion. They love the ability to bring in $500,000 every 90 days. However, I just had this conversation with a client last week. This does also not undo the fact of the pressure that comes with each of these launches and promotions. When you need for your business to generate X amount in a 3-week period, there is a lot of pressure because, again, there is an open and closed cart, meaning you can't 2 weeks after this launch say, hey, it's still available, buy it now. The launch-based model assumes that you've got a window to hit your target. And if you don't hit it in that window, and again, you've got a launch style business, you kind of got to wait till the next launch unless you want to decide to go more of a hybrid or, a blended type model where you have something else to sell in between. So what this does for most of my entrepreneurs that I work with is it does create a lot of stress. It does create a lot of, will people buy this time? Will it go the same as last launch? What if people don't buy? Has the market shifted? What's happening with the economy? Do I feel like I have enough leads? Has my audience been growing enough since last time? All these fears and concerns and curiosities come up every 90 days because we know the pressure of the timeline that we have to generate X amount of sales for the business. So, because of this, there is this also feast or famine when it comes to cash flow. Because the downside is you've got a limited amount of time to generate X amount of money. And while you may knock it out the park and you may just have oodles of sales coming in, you also have to recognize that you do have this tons of money coming in and then this dopamine drop of no money coming in, right? So think about for 3 weeks, this client bringing in $500,000 in 90 days, or even some clients on a smaller scale bringing in $50,000 during a launch, right? I have a whole spectrum of levels of businesses that I work with that use these models. But the thing you want to remember is you're so in the excitement, you're in the energy. You're like, yes, sales coming in, momentum in the marketing, energy, payment notifications, like, woo, like you're seeing it come in. And then boom, the launch is over. And now you're in this middle portion. No dopamine hit of sales coming in, no people reaching out to buy, no energy and momentum in the marketing. And you have to be comfortable to sit in that space. And it's difficult because when we've got this momentum and energy, it can be difficult to sit in that silence once that's over. So you have to be able to handle the stress and the emotional roller coaster, to be honest, of the launch itself, but also the space after the launch. You also have to be a really, really incredible person when it comes to management of your cash flow. Because if you are somebody who gets a surge of cash and you have the tendency as an entrepreneur to go spend, 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 it means that you're not really allocating what you're making during the launch over the amount of time that it needs to support you and to support your business. The other thing, which is a big risk within this style of business, and again, there's two sides. You can crush your launch time after time, but there's also a possibility in any person's business where a launch will flop. And we see this with big businesses. For example, Bud Light is a classic example of this. Bud Light had changed the essence of who their ideal client was. They did a big promotion, they did a big launch. And because of this, they saw the investment in their business and the stocks of their business start to plummet because of the change in their messaging, the change in their brand. So this was a launch and a promotion that they wanted to stand behind, that they wanted to, kind of put their foot down and say, here's our new offer, here's our new lens, which was their launch and promotion, but it didn't land. And it's not for lack of trying. There was a lot of intention and thought and teams of people in their marketing who sat down and planned out all of these things. But what we know is that there's what you plan in a launch, and then there's the reality of what happens. And with launches, you have to remember that this is not something you can kind of reiterate over time and refine and adjust the longer and longer you do it. You would have to wait till the next launch to really work out the kinks of what didn't land and then try again. So with this, the other downside is that with launch models, you have the risk of doing a launch and it completely flopping. It's possible, and it happens with all different styles of businesses. It happens with small businesses. If you're listening to this and you're making 6 figures a year, you're making multiple 6 or multiple 7, it can happen with you. It's happened with me. I've had launches in the past that I was like, that did not go to plan. And I've had launches where I've been like just completely blown away and beyond excited about what it generated. The same thing happens on a large scale with big companies and big brands as well. So there's an aspect of launching, which is really leveraging data, leveraging understanding of your audience, leveraging marketing and sales psychology. And with that, you curate this plan. And this can be done through email, social, referral, inside of your offerings. There's so many things that can go into a launch. But with this, there's still an aspect of you get one go. So you think about the Super Bowl, right? Let's use this as an example. And you think about the halftime show and the fact that they get this one snippet. They've done one rehearsal, which is you as a person in business going through your launch materials, but you get one go at this. If you mess up on stage and if you fall and if you, just completely flop in your presentation and in your performance, you get one go. Now, you can always, try to come back the following year and try to have a performance somewhere else or, kind of like redeem yourself. But at the end of the day, you're not doing it that day. And that's the same with a launch-based model. Is there's a downside here, which is that there is a possibility of it flopping and not landing. So with this, there's kind of two different sides, right? Great opportunity to generate cash, kind of a lot of pressure in being able to do that. Great opportunity of generating all the sales at once, but possible that moment when you launch that, it may not land the exact same every single time. And so let's talk a little bit about what are the mistakes people make with this model, right? Because there's pros and cons to every different model, but where can we kind of do a check-in to say, okay, well, is it that I don't like this model or is it that I love this model? But what are the things I need to be aware of? What are the things I want to make sure that to be the most successful with choosing this, would be as dialed in with as possible? So one of them that many people make the mistake of is not generating enough new eyes and enough new audience before launching. The way I want you to think about this is if you're somebody who's fishing every 90 days and you're rounding up all the fish, okay? You're going and you need X amount of fish. Let's just say, for the example, we need 150 fish to be able to generate the money that we need for us. Well, here's the thing. You're fishing from one pond. So if you are not having some new stream of water, some new stream of fish that are being replenished in that pond, you will fish for 3-4 times and you will run out of fish, because you haven't replenished the ecosystem that's in there. And so the important thing for every person who's going to go into a launch style business is you, in between these periods of launching and in between these periods of promotion, you have to be rebuilding your audience. You have to generate new eyes, new ears, new people coming into your ecosystem day in, day out, month after month. And this doesn't have to necessarily be on a grand scale. I'm by no means telling you need 400,000 followers or anything like that. I'm talking if your audience before, launch one that you do in a year, let's just say your audience was the size of, 2,000 people. Well, before the next launch, I would want to see 2,500 people or 2,250. I want to see some upward momentum in the fact that your audience is growing. Because what ends up happening then is people just really heavily rely on their existing audience and they're not turning over and creating new energy and new people, new buyers within their audience. So what ends up happening is because we're not as focused on generating new eyes and we're just sell, convert, we're actually really over time removing all the fish. And before we know it, we've got no fish left. So one of the things that's really important with the launch model is you have to be just as focused in the periods in between on building your audience and building new energy as much as you are leaning into the promotion and the launch aspect of it, which is the selling side of things. Another thing that is a big disconnect with launch style businesses, I'm going to be very direct with you. Launching is not just like it's available now, come get it. Like, Every single client that I work with who has a launch model is like, whoa, Kate. I'm like, yeah, you're trying to create $200,000 to $500,000, right? For all of our scaling businesses that have these big targets. You're trying to do that in less than a month, 3 weeks. And you want to do that all in one set amount of time and have a ton of people move. Launching is not just posting more on social media. And this is the most important thing that I would recommend to you. If you are someone who wants to have a launch style business and it excites you to have these big surges of cash and not have to be selling all day, every day, I'm excited for you because I've seen it work incredibly well for so many different entrepreneurs I've supported. However, every single one of them was surprised at how much it took to get structured initially. And that's the important aspect here, initially, to generate that. Because most people go into a launch style business, but they're rushing launching. They don't really plan the launch. They don't think through the launch. They don't prep and prepare the launch. They kind of just go in making more social media content and hope it will generate more. Again, remember, launching is the root of sales psychology and it's marketing psychology. There's principles and certain things that need to be established to generate success with your launch. So one of the things that we do is we plan in advance. For example, some of my clients, I work with them on their landing pages, their webinar, their email copy, their social media content calendar. Some of those 4 weeks in advance before they ever even mention anything about their launch on social media. It requires an intentional plan because you want to really think about the fact that there's two sides. There's creating an initial structure for launching, but also here's the benefit. Launches can be rinsed and repeated. So for us, when we do our Black Friday launch, we are now at a stage because we've done it year after year that we just refine and tweak it and make minor adjustments to it. But that's because we put in so much effort to the planning and to understanding the content that lands and to really making sure that we understand emails that translate for people. You need to prepare launches. This is not I just take my initial social media content and slap a different call to action on it. It really is not about that. It's about creating the momentum, creating the movement of masses of people. And that's not just more social media content. So rushing launches is not an option. I will not allow someone to come to me and say, hey, I want to launch and have this big, massive, multiple six-figure outcome. Well, can we open cart next week? No, because you won't get the outcome. It requires you to have this planning and preparation. And kind of connected to this, another big mistake is that people focus so much when I see people who try to do the launch model. They're so focused on the open cart week, meaning when it's available, come get it now, sign up. They think that's when the selling happens. And technically speaking, yes, it's when people can buy. But the basis of when selling happens with a launch-based model is much earlier than that, right? Like I want you to think about, again, back to our concert example. Taylor Swift didn't just randomly drop, hey, we have tickets now, right? She would tease things about something coming. She would tease that there was something in development. Same thing you'll see is a lot of the time with artists when they're teasing a new album. There is an initial energy and momentum that needs to be created well in advance of when it's actually available for purchase. Meaning, the time when you're really creating energy and momentum to sell concert tickets is not when they're available. It's people leading up and waiting at their seat, trying to be in line, first in line, second in line to get those tickets for the concert. And that energy is created, that commitment is created to being ready to buy because of the earlier marketing and the earlier momentum that was created. So when you're doing a launch-based model, I would say the minimum impact is the open cart week. That's not something that is the basis of your entire launch. Everything leading up to that is just as, if not more important than when the quote unquote open cart actually happens. Now, the other thing, which I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I also will always promise to be direct with you, and I know it's something that you appreciate. A lot of businesses that I work with have a very unrealistic expectation of what they feel should be the amount of sales they generate when really logistically they don't have the leads or the volume to support that. So even today, I've shared examples of a client that did 6 figures, a client that did 500,000, and you might hear that and be like, okay, that's what I want. I want that business. And that might be possible for you. I'm not going to lie. There's a high possibility that depending on the current status of your business, that could be possible for you. But here's the thing. If you are somebody who has an audience between email and social media, let's just say of 400 people, that's not possible for you. And it's not to say it won't ever be possible, but that's not a realistic target to generate $500,000 of sales off of 400 people. Now, could I potentially get you a $50,000 launch, a $100,000 launch? Sure, right? With good marketing, that's something that is possible. But $500,000 in context to an audience of 400 people is not actually logistically possible without growing an audience. You would have to have the most loyal, committed, like raving fan audience of anyone I'd ever met. And so the thing that's really important for me, and I think the thing that makes people not love the launch model, is they feel like they're not seeing the success they desire with it. But the basis of that is that you're really creating the success metric in the launch business from an unrealistic standpoint. It's not realistic, the goals that you have in context to the audience you have. We also see this commonly with people who are trying to launch too often. People who are like, I want to launch this and I want to launch this and I want to launch this. And I'm like, you got to give your audience a breather, because to expect one after another of like 500,000, 500,000, 500,000 with 2 weeks in between, it's not realistic. So we have to also be contextual with our goals of our launches to the context of our audience. And without doing so, you're going to be disappointed. So it's my job to be, unfortunately, the bearer of bad news, but also the reality check to say, listen, we can get you great success, but we can't guarantee you're going to get X if we feel like the numbers are not there to support it. And this is the other thing that is a mistake as well with launching. People don't understand that this is not just a matter of what you desire to do, what you hope to achieve, what you'd love to be able to do. This is actually just also the reality of the data. If I have, let's just say, analogy, I have a room with 200 people in it and I need to sell 8,000 pairs of socks. Do we feel like that's realistic? Maybe it's possible if I'm a really good salesperson and I give X amount to every single person in that room, but the likeliness is I'm probably going to sell anywhere between 500 to 1,000 socks in that room of 200 people. And I could say, hey, get one for you and get 3 pairs for a family member or friend. But the reality is to sell 8,000 socks in a room of 200 people is very difficult because there's not enough people with the problem to buy enough of the product. So not understanding that data is an essential understanding in launches is part of why people don't see the success they want, and sometimes why people fall out of love with the model of having a launch business, is they're frustrated that they're not getting the outcome they want when really the outcome was not realistic based on the data that they had in their audience. That also, by the way, is not just the size of your audience, it's also the warmth of your audience. And this is something that can be changed. That's actually an easier problem to solve than a size, because size takes time. I've seen also audiences with people who have 200,000 followers on social media, but because their audience is not warm, because their audience is not engaged, and frankly, they've kind of been neglected, they're not converting. And it's not because they need more people, it's because they haven't really paid attention to their audience. And now they want their entire audience to buy all of their offer. So that's also something to dive into. Most significantly and most commonly with the launch model is people get burnt out. People get, I want these big surges of cash. I want to have these big sales. I don't want to be promoting all the time. And it can feel really sexy. It can feel really exciting. But as I said, it requires planning. It requires effort. It requires preparation. And there's a lot that goes into generating a promotion and an effective launch at scale. So with this, I always tell people we'll do a couple launches. We'll typically do anywhere between 2 to 3. And at that point, you will really know if this kind of style of business is really what you're cut out for. Meaning, is this something that with what it requires of you and also what it generates for you, is this something that you feel is supportive? And it may or may not be. But the thing that we want to look at is giving you some experience launching before you decide that a launch style business is like the be all end all. I want to also say, launch style businesses. I know we're going through a lot of pros and cons. We're going through some mistakes, and you're thinking, oh man, is a launch style business for me? This is something I've seen many clients that I work with completely thrive in. So I also want to say that I don't want to demonize launch style businesses. Again, there's no right or wrong here. There's just the reality. I'm a big fan in business of going in eyes wide open, meaning if you're going to go into having like, I want to launch business or I want an evergreen business, I want you to know all of the different things to consider and look at and assess to really make sure that when you put that stake in the ground, you feel like, yes, this is exactly what I want and this is what feels right for me. They can be a very, very fantastic, super supportive style business, but you just have to kind of go in eyes wide open of what it looks like and what you'll be facing. Now, let's go contrast, okay? Let's flip the switch here. We're going to go evergreen model. Let's talk pros and cons. Evergreen model, very stable, steady income. So we're not having these big, big surges. We're kind of, again, think about launches are herding 200 sheep. Evergreen is trickling in 220 or, 200 sheep kind of thing over a period of time. So because of that, there's this slow and steady, okay? There's a aspect of planting seeds every single day to over time have this beautiful garden, i.e. leads that are generated for you. So because of that, you have this stability. You have stability of sales every day, stability of, chipping away and planting your seeds every day with marketing. You have this consistency. And because of that, it feels very stable. There's not a lot of that emotional roller coaster that happens because if something's not landing, you can always just refine it. You can just decide that, say I post something on a Tuesday and it doesn't get a very good response. Guess what? Try again Wednesday. Guess what? Try again Thursday. Like you don't have a limited amount of chances at bat. So because of that, you can really just reiterate and refine over time every single day. So it as a benefit allows you more execution to find out what works because you're kind of always marketing and you're always selling. Now, here's the downside. You don't get a day off when it comes to evergreen promotion, when it comes to evergreen marketing, when it comes to an evergreen style business. It's always on, which means that if I am selling an offer day in, day out, we're not having on and off switches. It's always available. It's always being sold. It's always being promoted. It's always a call to action. It's always enrolling. So there's not really an off switch when it comes to an evergreen style business. And because of this, there's typically the feeling, the burnout from this type of style is the fact that you kind of have to always be on, right? So like it's good because it's stable and it's steady, and you can always reiterate along the way and refine along the way, but it also means you're always working along the way. So it's just something to consider. The other thing that I would say is a big benefit for why most people go with an evergreen style business is they don't like the stress and they don't like the pressure and the expectation that comes with a launch style model. That's something that maybe feels overwhelming. They feel like they want to have more time to reiterate. They want to have more time to refine. And so because of that, they like the ability to lean into the stable, to lean into the planting of seeds, to not feel like it's a make it or break it in this launch. They like the idea of being able to chip away day after day, week after week, month after month. So the problem, or the, shall I say, conflict at times with Evergreen that I see most people experience is that they feel like, well, Kate, I have no urgency. I feel like I have no urgency of like, why does someone have to buy right now? Why does someone have to invest in this offer today? And I'll give you a little tidbit. One of the things that is the biggest difference between a launch style business and an evergreen style business when it comes to urgency is that launch style businesses create urgency around the product, which is that the product is here, the product's going away. The service is here, the service is going away. The promotion is here, the promotion's going away. When you have an evergreen style business, the urgency is not about the product, it's about the internal urgency. Meaning, when someone's going to invest with you in evergreen style businesses, it's not because the product was going to go away. It's because if they don't do this, they're going to end up where? What's the internal reason that they need to invest right now? What's the reason that they need to move right now when it comes to their goals, their current problems, their pain points, their desires? What's the reason for that? That is the reason they need to move right now. They're not going to move in an evergreen style because you have a timer that's going down. For me, let's just say, if I'm going to promote Accelerator, I'm not promoting because the offer is going away. I'm promoting saying, hey, if for the last quarter your business has not been thriving, this is exactly why you need to do it right now, because the next quarter not thriving is really, frankly, the difference of you going out of business or not. Right? So I'm creating internal urgency to say, look at yourself, reflect in your problem as to why now's the time. Don't focus on my offer and, oh, will it be available next week? It will be here next week, but your problem will also be here next week. Right? So we're creating the urgency around the problem, not around the product. Little tidbit for you. Now, the thing I will say with the downside of Evergreen is you don't have as much energy. You don't have as much momentum. So again, remember with launching, we talked about the fact that we've got masses of people moving, lots of energy in the marketing, lots of people, shifting and moving at the same time. We're getting this FOMO feeling of people moving. Should I move? We kind of get all that with launching. We don't have as much of that with Evergreen, right? So we don't have as much energy, as much momentum. And because of that, it's something that we have to actually pay attention to and plant seeds to maintain and to create that energy. It's not going to create itself. So, one of the important things when it comes to energy and momentum within the marketing of Evergreen is you have to create that. We are somebody, for example, with our marketing, that we are using our media and our marketing very intentionally to constantly be looking to create momentum and to create marketing movement. Now, because of it being evergreen, another downside is there has to be a high reliance on strong systems. This is in a multitude of different areas. You need to have strong, consistent daily marketing that allows you to trickle in leads each day. You need to have a strong sales system, which allows you to convert people consistently each day. You also need to have a strong offering that allows it to do well with consistent people joining every single day. Evergreen is a successful model for businesses as long as you have the systems and the structures to support the marketing, the sales, and the delivery within that. If you don't, it means that you are going to be planting seeds each day, but you're not going to be seeing any movement the way you want to scale your business. So there's the systems, as an example, would be, do you know how to market each day to get people to move? Do you know how to set up the onboarding of your offer, the delivery of the inside of your offer to mean that it's not, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4? Do you know how to be able to onboard one person on Tuesday and one person on Thursday and another one on the following Monday, who are all at different stages of their journey, and manage it all and maintain that all of them get great results? That is a byproduct of the level of systems that are required with an evergreen business. So the good part about an evergreen business is the fact that, we've got this great income, we've got these always rolling sales coming in, we've got, less stress on us because we don't have this big surge, we can kind of always be selling. But the downside is we don't have as much urgency. We don't have as much, momentum and energy in a certain period of time. We also need really dialed in systems and strategies to maintain consistently generating results every single day, rather than leveraging, the energy in the marketing to have this big surge of results all at once. So if you're thinking about having an evergreen business, the question becomes, well, what are things we need to be aware of? What are common mistakes people make within an evergreen style business? The number one thing that I see is people will say, I'm just going to set it and forget it. No. There's no, in evergreen marketing and like sales, everything, there's no set it and forget it. And listen, I have worked with course creators who have evergreen funnels, meaning that they have a course that they can sell or provide to anybody at any time. And so what they'll do is they'll have a webinar that's always available. At the end of that webinar, it pitches the course. That then takes that person through emails that sell them the course. They buy the course and they go into it. This is not a set it and forget it. And I know that there's so much messaging in the online space of just like, I set up this funnel and I sit on a beach and I drink Mai Tais. Okay. Yes, the goal is to obviously, of course, have passive sales. But here's the thing. Marketing changes. People's desire of what they want around an offer changes. Emails and how they land for people and what lands in subject lines and copy shifts and changes. What used to work in marketing and funnels even a year and a half ago is not working today. So this is the thing I want to note for anyone who's thinking evergreen. A mistake, and a mindset mistake, frankly, that many people make is this belief that I can just set it and forget it. There is no setting it and forgetting it. You're constantly changing and refining and tweaking. That's the word I would have you use. is to think you will be tweaking a funnel. You will tweak an offer. You will tweak your marketing and your sales. I am even tweaking my marketing and my sales because some of my offers are evergreen. And so I'm also looking, well, how can I get more activated people each day? And what landed for people before versus what lands now, right? So we're always looking to refine our marketing, our sales, and our delivery. Also, something that I see that is a big, big disconnect is the fact that people, when they're doing evergreen, don't really necessarily know how to use organic social media or organic marketing in general to be a lead generator. Most people think that evergreen businesses are really just like, I put up a post today, people will come my way. The thing that I want to note is they're two totally different marketing strategies. So we talked a little bit about this. And if you want to dive into that, we have an entire episode that is all about the actual strategy and structure of how to do a launch. But I want to kind of note this really quickly because it is something very important. When you're doing a launch, you're doing a big wave. Again, remember, mass movement of people. You're doing a big wave of problem-aware based content, a big wave of agitational content, and a big wave of solution content. If you're launching on social media, that is. And again, email's a little bit different. Depending on where you're promoting, podcasts will be a little bit different. But generally speaking, you're doing those in big chunks. When you're doing evergreen, you're doing problem-aware, agitation, and solution all within 1 week. So think option A, launch model, is all one content week 1, all at a different type of content week 2, and all a different type of content week 3. With evergreen, you're doing day 1 a style of content, day 2 a style of content, day 3 a style of content, and you're constantly rotating. So it's a different style of marketing as well. And so I think the thing that is also really important for people to understand is that if you are somebody who wants to have an evergreen business, you have to understand how to market evergreen. Just like if you want to have a launch business, you have to learn to launch. If you want to have an evergreen style business and generate daily sales into your offer, service, agency, course, consulting, whatever it might be, if you want to have that daily trickle in of sales, you have to learn how to generate that. And it's not something that is just posting on social media. So that's a big misconception, is this belief that to have an evergreen business just means I post on social. Technically, yes. Am I posting on social? Sure. But it's rooted in a certain style of marketing, which is an evergreen style plan. Evergreen marketing is not just putting up content each day with a call to action. It actually has a deeper underlay to it of what you're trying to do, the different types of content you should be putting out, in what order you should be putting them out. All those things really do matter to have success with evergreen. So remember, if you're going to do evergreen, it's not just about putting up social media content day in, day out. It's building and understanding an evergreen marketing plan and integrating that to your socials. The other thing that I also see when it comes to evergreen is the fact that oftentimes people don't have an offer that is designed to be an evergreen business. So someone will go in and say, I really want to generate sales every day. I really want to generate, marketing each day that brings in leads. And I love that. But you also have to make sure that your offer is designed to accept people every day. Because someone will say to me, I've had an agency who came to me and they said, Kate, we really want to have an evergreen business. We really want to have, people always coming in. And I said, okay, I love that. Like, great, let's do it. And when we dove into it, we very quickly figured out that they had no capacity. They literally had no openings around their agency. So I said, okay, well, if we're going to promote every day, if we're going to sell this every day, but your opening for your agency is 5 months out for your next opening, what are we promoting? What are we exactly selling? So we looked at, is the offer conducive to having an evergreen style business? Meaning, can your offer that you have right now actually accept people continuously? And can it serve people continuously? Because I, for example, have another business that I work with, and their offer is a cohort style offer, which means that they have literal start and end dates, and they rinse and repeat the start and end dates every single time they promote. So for that person to have an evergreen style offering would mean that they would need to change their offer. Because to have an evergreen style, you can join anytime, but yet you have a kickoff and you have an end date on your program, makes it extremely difficult without making some changes to get consistent sales coming in. So the other thing that can bottleneck people from an evergreen model is also the fact that they don't really have a business that is supportive of an evergreen model. And it means that, listen, I could give you all the marketing and all the leads, but if you can't serve those, it means that you actually don't have what you need to have an evergreen style business. So one of the first things I actually ask people when they want to have an evergreen style business is, tell me about your offer, because I want to understand what capacity you have. And, or is this just a business where we're using evergreen marketing, which is another style of evergreen? You're using evergreen marketing to build a wait list. So you're not actually opening all the time, but you're using marketing to build a wait list so that when you do open, you have this surge of people. Again, there's just different ways. There's so many different ways of leveraging this, but I just want to give you some examples. The other thing that I would also say is, I don't think a lot of people, I mentioned this earlier about urgency. It's really important. I don't think people understand how to make urgency. And I think because of that, they don't know how to maintain energy within an audience. They don't know how to maintain a level of urgency of, why should someone move now? And so because of that, they struggle to sell. They struggle to market evergreen. They struggle to sell evergreen. And it's not because of a lack of trying around, posting or something, right? It's not that they need to be more consistent. It's not about any of those things. It's about the fact that I see people who don't really understand how to create energy each day within their marketing, each week in their marketing. And because of that, they struggle to sell. They struggle to generate consistent sales. So the other element I wanted to dive into here is the hybrid. And so that's really what my business is. So I'm going to kind of give you a quick sneak peek of what that means. And I have some businesses that I also support who do the same thing. How I want you to think about my business, which is a hybrid, so how I want you to think about hybrid businesses, are really people who have sales that they generate all the time, but they also leverage launches and promotions periodically. So I would say for me, I typically do some aspect of a promotion. So this is a little bit different than a launch, in my opinion. A promotion is when something for a limited amount of time goes on sale. A launch is a little bit different because it really is the basis of a style of business. It's open and closed. The difference for me is mine's not open and closed. So for example, when we do a Black Friday promotion, our Black Friday promotion is one of a kind. It's an offer, a discount, an added value, a limited time thing you will never get any other time in the year. So it only happens every Black Friday. But with this promotion, when it's done, you can still join our mastermind. It just means that the promotion is no longer available. So how I want you to think about it is, remember that favorite pair of jeans we mentioned earlier on in the episode? And we talked about how there's Evergreen, which is always having that pair of jeans sitting there. You can buy them anytime. My mastermind is the equivalent of that pair of jeans. That pair of jeans is always sitting there. And let's just say that pair of jeans is $60. You can buy that pair of jeans any day of the week, but you're going to have a day where it's store-wide 20% off. So if you buy during the week that the whole store is 20% off, you can get that same pair of jeans, i.e. my mastermind, 20% off. If you don't move though, and you come back the following Monday, once the sale is over, the posters have come down, our marketing is done, and you come back and you say, hey, I want to join, you will pay the $60 for that pair of jeans. So what we do is we basically have promotions. Typically, I would say once every max, I would say for sure that at the highest amount, once every 4 months, but typically once every 6 months, we do a big promotion. And one of those is our Black Friday promotion. But when we do those promotions, those are surges of sales. So we leverage those to give us a little boost in our cash flow that typically most of those are 6-month offerings. So it means we have 6 months of payments that are coming in from those clients. And then in between, we're still selling. So we're still going to offer people to join. People can still come into our programs and can still work with us in a bunch of different capacities. But what it means for us is we kind of get to dabble a little bit in both. We get to have the fun and the boom and the energy of a big promotion. And we also get to, once the promotion is over and done with, still sell our offer and still serve people inside of that offer. So for me, what I found was, because I've done both, I've done big launches, I've done only Evergreen. And for me, the hybrid model is kind of where I found home. And by that hybrid, I would say the percentage in my business is 70% of my business is Evergreen, 30% of it is promotions. But again, the distinction here being the promotions are where the offer, i.e. the discount, the added value, that's going away, but the offer is not going away. Meaning it's not like this is the last spot. You got to get it before it goes, because if you don't get it, you can't join. Like, none of that is inside of our promotions. It's just about the fact that if you want the discount, if you want the added value, that's something you got to move on when it happens, because when you come back a week later, you won't be getting that. And so it's really just an opportunity for anyone, especially, which is the part I love about it, anyone during the Evergreen side who really is somebody who needs, and this is something we dive into within sales psychology, there are certain types of people who, when they are consuming anybody, even if it's not an online business, maybe it's not me, not you, they're looking at their favorite hairspray or their favorite foundation. They will not buy it unless the Sephora sale is on. If the Sephora sale is on, they're like, add to cart, let's go, and they're buying it. The same thing is true for people when they are consuming from someone who has an evergreen business. There are certain people that they need some aspect of urgency. They need some aspect of promotion. They need some aspect of some kind of incentive that is the reason that they should move. Now, it's not to say that because those people exist, you should automatically have a hybrid business. No, it's just an awareness that for me, I saw, okay, well, I like launching, but I don't like relying on launching. For me, I don't personally enjoy all the sales happen at one time and nothing in between. For me, it's not the lifestyle, it's not the marketing, it's not the kind of business that I desire. So for me, I looked at, okay, well, how can I have sales come in all the time, but then dabble a little bit in promotions in a way that feels fun for me? So I do those twice a year, 3 times a year. And outside of that, our programs are always open. So yes, it means we have good, stable cash flow. We have, a good, consistent enrollment of new people coming into our world. We have just really this kind of rinse and repeat, if you will, of what we do in marketing day in, day out. And we tweak it over time. We refine it to always make sure it's getting better and better outcomes. And then when we do our promotions, we use a very similar model. Like, our Black Friday promotion is a very rinse and repeat type of structure. We make some tweaks based off each time we do it and what we learn from that. But generally speaking, it really is something that over time we pretty well rinse and repeat. So today we went through, a couple different things. We went through, what is each model? What are the pros and cons of launch versus evergreen? What are mistakes that people make in each? And so for you listening to this, you may already be like, okay, listening, I already know what I want to do. I already know I want launch, or I know I want evergreen, or I know I want your model, Kate, of hybrid. But I want to kind of give you some things to help you with deeper reflection if you feel like you're still not quite sure on which model you want to use. So first, ask yourself, do I enjoy big promotion energy and feeling like I can really lean in and show up and create this momentum and energy? Or do I feel like I prefer more quiet, consistent, plant seeds every day style marketing? Okay. Am I okay? And do I feel prepared to handle launch emotional stress? Would I say that it energizes me, or would I say that it drains me? This is an important one, because some people, they're like, ooh, I'm kind of stressed, but I'm kind of like, ooh, like I'm excited about it. Like, I'm kind of nervous, but I'm amped about it. I'm pumped about it. There's some people, though, that they're stressed about it and it literally makes them feel ill. If they don't achieve their goal, they're stressed to the nines, and not in a positive way. It's not like a nerves because you're excited. It's a nerves like, I don't enjoy this feeling. So are you somebody who has that feeling of kind of like those internal butterflies and energy, and you kind of get excited by that? Or is it something that you feel you almost are overly stressed by and you're nervous to have? Do you feel you can commit the time and the energy to be able to build strong systems to have an evergreen style business? Meaning, are you willing to put the time it takes into the offering? Are you willing to put the time in, day out, to marketing and selling? And also, do I need in my business right now a big surge of fast cash flow? Or can I invest time in the slow and steady growth that comes with Evergreen? And another caveat to this question is, could you do both? Could you use a promotion to create a surge, and after that, maintain consistency with Evergreen? These are questions that will help you to really look at what does land for me. And here's the thing I want to say. I don't want you to feel like whatever you pick today is set in stone. I have to pick a launch business. I have to pick an evergreen business, and I can't change my mind. I help businesses every day who came in thinking they wanted a launch business and went the other way. I've also had people who've gone to an evergreen business. I had somebody who I helped to make an evergreen course, and they wanted this to be put on autopilot. And she's like, Kate, I miss marketing. Like I miss, like, she had a completely automated funnel. So it meant that she really didn't need to promote a lot. And the marketing just that she was putting out every single day was what was generating the movement for her. But the problem was she kind of liked the launching. She kind of liked the energy of momentum. She kind of liked the big push and the surge of sales. So for her, by taking that away, she was less excited about her business than she used to be. So it was our invitation to bring that back. So I want to invite you today to use this as a little bit of a check-in, use it as a little bit of an audit, and say, okay, of these two models, or even potentially three, again, launch model, evergreen model, and hybrid, which do I feel like is me? Which do I feel like lands for the goals I have? What do I think supports me lifestyle-wise? What kinds of ways do I enjoy to market and enjoy to sell? And use this as an opportunity for reflection. And listen, obviously, I mention to you every episode, I am always here, DMs open, to hear anything that kind of lands for you. And if I can be an advisement for you, I am always happy to dive in. So we also are always open for questions inside of our ambitious community. It's called the Ambitious Network. It is a free community for people like yourself who are listening like today. If you literally just message us the word ambitious on Instagram, I'll send you the link. Or if you want to head to the show notes of this episode, whether on video or audio, you'll see that below for a link to join us. This is a community where you can also ask questions. So if you feel like you're listening today and you're like, I feel like I know what I want to do, but I'm not quite sure which model is right for me, or maybe you're even in a model right now that you kind of want to switch to the other side, but you're not sure what changes to make in order to do that, my messages inside of our community are wide open. So shoot me a message in there. I would love to have you inside the community and to connect with you and to formally be able to meet you. But I hope today was an aspect of clarity. I hope today was a light bulb for you of the different things you could consider in your business. And most importantly, a reality check that there's not a right or wrong here. This is not a matter of there's one model better than the other, one model easier than the other. It's really about picking the model that works best for you. So with all of that being said, thank you so much for listening and watching today and spending this time with me. I cannot wait to see you on the next episode. And as always, stay ambitious.